Not the Footy Show.
Cameron Smith is in the midfield, and that was a fair ball by Jerome Hughes.
Wonderful ball from Jerome Hughes. There was plenty of people suggesting as another break is made.
Here it is, and it's Josh Adokar up over the halfway line. He's got support. It's Robb. Pappenhausen. The Storm go back to back. That's spectacular.
Oh, it's a carve up early. Canberra haven't turned up.
This is a good run here. This is a good run here by Isaiah, and he gets it away for Dylan Edwards. A couple of the country boys score a preliminary final try.
Isaiah, take a bow on that one. That is absolutely brilliant. Fan, tall, rangy, kid from Dubbo.
G'day everyone, welcome to the grand final edition of Not The Footy Show. It is episode 224. I'm Warrick Nicolson. And you can see Matthew Duncan. You can't see Roberto Cocksmith once again, the dentist as I'm now calling him. I think you're the doctor, aren't you, Fremantle? Mr.
Yeah.
Yep. One of us is in the car, two of us are in the homes, and we are about to preview the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers in the 2020 NRL Grand Final. Gentlemen, it's good to have you. We've left it late in the week. But it's a bit of a unique recording this time because, Cocksmith, you're on the way to a job somewhere. So what's the time frame? What can we do?
Oh, mate, I can do a full 3 minutes if you want.
So 3 of your best minutes for the year. That's good. That's good. And Matt,
well, it's about quality, isn't it? Not quality.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we've got rid of your face off TV. Matty and yes. You, mate, you ready to unleash, I guess you're going to want to talk about the Brisbane Broncos' quest for the three-peat. That's all you want to talk about in the grand final.
The grand final.
Yeah, fair enough. In that game, it's the Roosters and the Broncos. I think it's a rematch of last year's decider or the year before. I'm not 100% sure. But it's been going for 3 years. Matthew reliably informs me, and he is all in on the Broncos. I actually saw them play in the first week of the finals, and that fullback Upton, she's pretty good.
He goes good. Ali Brigginshaw there. It's a star-studded team.
Star-studded team. It's a star-studded Not The Footy Show, episode 224. We'll get into a bit of a prelim final reaction into our grand final tips and preview. And we might talk a bit of Dally M and favourite grand final moments and or players as we get into episode 224 of Not The Footy Show.
Not The Footy Show.
I heard some mad stories about this kid, man. He's limber. He's too limber.
Put a cork in it, Zane.
Jeez.
It's a walk-off. It's a walk-off.
Of course, you might want to know. Your boy Zoolander's rolling. It's a walk-off.
All right, who's going to call this sucker?
If nobody has any objections, I believe I might be of service.
Okay, it is time to talk about the prelim finals. Boys, I've been putting this off for a couple of days. My team fell by the wayside, absolutely obliterated by a wonderful Melbourne attack in the first 20 minutes. I don't even know what the score was in the end, but it was enough to not enough. The Raiders are gone. The Melbourne Storm are through. What were your impressions from Melbourne in particular, Rob?
Oh, mate, they were phenomenal that first 20 minutes, 25 minutes. They were just phenomenal. Best start to a final or even a rugby league game that I've seen in many years, mate. They were, they just starved Canberra of the ball. They starved them of the locality on the field where they got the ball, and they pounded them in defence. It was the ideal start to any kind of a rugby league game, especially a final.
Yep.
And look, we know Canberra have, they've had a bit of a thing for years where they start a little slow. I mean, I remember back in the day, they'd start a little slow. So they've had a bit of a thing about it, but you can't afford to start slow and give Melbourne, a couple of tries. It came back to bite them. But since doing a bit of investigation,
yeah.
I think I've found out why.
Matthew, would you like to hear this?
We'll get to that after Matty gives us his wrap on the game, mate.
Matty?
Oh, no, I want to hear this. Storm too good. Raiders too slow. Yeah, let's hear the revelation.
Well, it's not so much a revelation. It's just that I heard a bit of a whisper the day after that game. And, mate, I never knew this. But the Queensland government, they wouldn't let Canberra fly in the night before. Canberra had to fly in on the day. On the day. And apparently, word has it that they weren't allowed to go to a hotel and lay down either. They had to go straight to the ground. And, mate, they were looking for places to relax. And, I mean, I don't know about you, but there ain't too many places to relax that I've seen in a football stadium.
Well, not the concrete jungle that is Suncorp.
There's some hard floors, and apparently that's what they were doing. They were trying to, lay down in some corporate boxes and get some sleep and some, I mean, they've just flown in from Canberra. I mean, just disgusting, mate. This Queensland government are, I'm sorry to say, Matty, but they're a pack of mate.
Mark's down where I have to change a word. Where am I?
They really are. I mean, they're on a massive power trip. The woman that's running the joint is a no-mark, and she's just grasping for power with everything she can do, except unless it comes to AFL, of course. I've heard that the AFL are off the leash up there, apparently. No bubble being enforced. Lots of partying going on with young ladies in the Sunshine Coast.
The importation of grass. I mean, look,
mate. Look, the thing is, with all jokes aside, mate, Canberra were hampered in their preparation for that game. Ricky Stewart would be blowing up the Lux. It's something that he'll hold on to for a number of years, I'm sure. And I would too if I was him. I wouldn't be able to let it go. They were, you can't say they were ripped off because Melbourne was so good. But you can say that they weren't given an even opportunity. And I can't believe for the life of me that the NRL didn't do something about that, push a bit of weight around, which I know they can.
Well, there's something else that the NRL didn't do on the night that we'll get to in a second. But what's your take on that, Matt? What Robb's hasn't revealed to everybody, but we
no. Oh, well, obviously up against it, but look, if it was, it's not ideal for Canberra at all. So, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Team Anastasia here.
Look at that. I love it. I love it. I won't go into the other election that's coming up.
Not going to happen.
Not gonna happen. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
The question that I did have for you guys is basically around game plans. I was at length about what I hoped Canberra wouldn't do, and I think they went and tried to do it. Whereas Melbourne, I probably didn't give them enough credit going into the game that they might do exactly what I hoped Canberra would do to them, and that was use the ball, stretch our edges, and just target our weaknesses. And I tell you, if you ever need an amplification of some of the deficiencies that are in a football team, just watch the first 25 to 30 minutes of that game, everybody. That is a clinical display by Craig Bellamy about saying, all right, you're weak here, here, and here. I'm going to attack it, and I'm going to attack it hard. And 24-0, boys.
Yeah, well, look, there's always been a bit of talk and chatter about why some players haven't gone on to bigger and better things. Particularly one of your centres at Canberra. And both of the centres were diabolical that night. The wingers weren't much better. Look, I'm not saying with what I said before about the way that they were treated by the government. I still think that I honestly still think that all finals after the first round of finals should be held in one stadium, and that being in Sydney, being the city that the NRL headquarters are in.
Yep.
Then we wouldn't have to. We wouldn't be dealing with that kind of stuff. But anyway, mate, Melbourne were way too good. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Canberra would have won if they got a good night's rest in a hotel in the Valley in Brisbane. I think that they were just outclassed, mate. Melbourne too big, too strong, too fast.
One thing I did need to bring up, and it follows on from the game plan approach. Ricky Stewart is the best choice for Canberra coach. He's been our best coach in Sheens. There's no doubt about that. And I'm very happy that he is in that position. And the players love him. But Tom Starling coming on in the 48th minute, boys. What is doing a Ricky?
What was doing? What was the thought process?
Stubbornness, I would say. I bleated on about this in the prelim finals preview. Ricky would try and beat him through the middle. He would try and play safe. He'd look for a defensive option at the start, and he may leave Starling off for 20, 30 minutes. 48 minutes before he comes on, and we were down 24-0 after 20 minutes. There's some baffling things that have been done. This isn't up there with the Steve Roach, Paul Sirinen replacement in a grand final, because that was a grand final. But gee, it's not far off given how important Starling's been to Canberra for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Ricky, if there's one thing that, if I'm Craig Bellamy sitting next to him, that photo of them in the sheds or the dinner in the sheds saying, commiserations, Craig Bellamy is just sitting there going, don't ask me about Tom Starling, don't ask me about Tom Starling, don't ask me about Tom Starling. Because that was a gift, absolute gift.
Yeah, I don't know about the phasing, like as far as the phasing and what he was doing as far as, I know that it looked like he wanted to play a power game, hence not having Starling on the field. But I would have thought that once they'd scored 2 tries or maybe 3 tries on you, you'd probably hit the red button and get Starling on the field to try and get a bit of spark out of dummy half and a bit of, momentum. But look, mate, I'm not sure. Maybe he couldn't at the time. 48 does seem like a long time, but maybe he couldn't at the time because he was in the middle of a phase of another player being on and didn't want to cost them interchanges at the end. I'm unsure.
Anyway, let's move on from this game, boys, but in agreement, Melbourne just far too good, and they moved on. And the other match, which was the superior of the 2 prelim finals, not just because it was close, but it was a better game of footy. Penrith hold on to beat the Bunnies in a tight one, basically thanks to Isaiah Yeo's individual line break to set up Dylan Edwards to make it 8 points, a 8-point lead with 14 to go. But the story of this game, as far as I'm concerned, lads, is that Penrith weren't up 30-6 in the first half. How did they butcher? They butchered at least 3 certain tries, but how they didn't score more than, was it 14-6 at halftime? It did my head in. And this is what I worry about with Penrith is that Souths weren't fantastic. They dug in at times and they found something towards the sort of the second half. But this game should have been over after 20 minutes. Red flags going up for Penrith?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's just, you do that against a Storm and you don't ever get, you don't get second chances with the Storm. So that I've seen some major red flags in those butchered tries.
Yeah. Rob?
Yeah, I agree with what Matty just said. Then you do it against a Storm, and it's lights out, baby. But I'm glad they did it last week, and Ivan will be very much onto them this week about, boys, if you want to chuck away a grand final, to start exactly like you did last week. So there is time to repair it. I don't think they're gone. I do think that Melbourne deserve to be favourites, but I just, they just look tight to me. The Panthers just look tight. They didn't look like the Panthers from a couple of weeks ago. But they, Cleary still kept his head.
He did.
And
that one kick that
he hung in there
was awesome towards the end of the match.
Yeah. And he got them to hang in there. They kept believing. They were getting frustrated, but they kept believing it. But, how good is Isaiah Yeo? Yo! Seriously, how good is he? He's a good player.
The impressive thing about that run was that he found the energy to hit that gap. Because if you look at who he beat, he beat Damien Cook quite easily. And Cook then was flat-footed and Yeo was gone. I mean, that's the one thing that everyone keeps telling about Damien Cook is, look, he made 1,000 tackles, but he's quick. So for Yeo to hit that gap, make the break, it was impressive. And then Tom Burgess got exposed and around the ruck, which I thought Coruscant would do that during the game with their big guys, and they missed Totola in that second stint. But the decision that we've got to bring up before we get to our grand final preview, but the Dane Gagai try, boys, I don't know how many replays you show me and how many people tell me that, it's a rugby league player and he scored a try. That is a knock-on, bouncy, all your shoes in a line.
You'd have loved it. Bouncy, oh, such a good time. Bouncy, shoes all in a line. Bouncy, everybody somersault, summertime. Everybody sing along. Bouncy, oh, such a good time. Bouncy, white socks slipping down. Bouncy, stilettos are a no.
to steal the mighty boosh. That is ridiculous. How was that given a try?
I agree that it was a knock-on, and I don't know how it's given a try.
Nah, had me beat.
He looked at the first replay and goes, he maintains possession. And then obviously someone, which I've told everybody here when I've been in the bunker, there's somebody else sitting in the next to him going, maybe look at it one more time. Just look at it one more time. There's always someone there.
Whose voice was that?
Oh,
does that sound like Bernard Sutton?
Maybe. Back in the day, it was Tony Archer. The voice was a bit different. I won't get into any defamation issues by trying to imitate his voice. But basically, that decision, it was huge in the context of the game. I think that got back to 14-12. And it's just wrong. And I was waiting for him to not give the Corey Allen one as a square up. Because I thought that one was a try, but there was a little bit of, maybe. But I was waiting for them to go, we've stuffed up this other one. We'll just square this up by saying this isn't a try. And they gave that one as well. It's just, I know people compared it to the Jethro Carr one that was disallowed. That was a knock-on as well. And Gagai's one, just blatant, clear as day. And I don't know who is the video ref in this weekend's game. I know Jerry Sutton's got the main whistle, but it'll be fascinating.
Well, Jared Maxwell seems to have been the number one video referee.
It's a very good question in regards. Hang on, here we go. The senior review official is Steve Chitty. That's the one that made the decision because Maxwell did the game on Friday night. So the guy who got the Gagai decision wrong. And interestingly, when a team gets knocked out, do you find that the Graham Annesley press conference on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, this would be such a massive thing if Penrith had been beaten. But now it's not. Yeah. And I can't even, I haven't seen a headline addressing it at all. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, that's the prelim final. So South did very well to get to this stage, I thought. And, you can argue they were a bit unlucky. No, they got the Gagai try. They shouldn't have been that close. They shouldn't have been that close, let alone in the first half. So that's the prelim finals. Penrith knock out Souths and Melbourne crush the Raiders. We'll be back after the break with our grand final preview here on Not The Footy Show.
Not The Footy Show.
What does it mean to the Penrith side? Well, I believe it means a very different thing for them, but specifically it means that Penrith, if they win, have stood up to be counted in the rugby league world and thrown off the terrible image they've inherited of the chocolate soldiers. They entered the competition in 1967. Now into their 24th year, the Penrith Club and the Penrith fans are about to watch history as the Penrith Panthers enter the Sydney Football Stadium for their first ever grand final appearance. The Panthers fans at the club celebrate as Royce Simmons leads the side on, followed by Greg Alexander. What a time this is for the Penrith Club. But this is one of the true sporting stories of Australia. 2 years in the top grade. They brought them together from all over. The Storm of Melbourne, put together by John Rebo, Chris Anderson, Chris Johns, Glenn Lazarus. And they're in a grand final in only their second year.
Okay, everyone, it's episode 224. It's Not The Footy Show. Matty Duncan, Roberto Cox-Smith, and I'm Warrick Nicolson. It's time to give you our grand final preview where this game is going to be won in our eyes. We've just recapped the prelim finals and it's time to talk about Melbourne up against Penrith. One loss all year for the Penrith Panthers, lads. Two tighter affairs in the qualifying and prelim finals for them, though. The decision to leave Brent Naden out before the prelim final for Tyrone May. My gut feel was it wasn't just related to the brain snap he had that on the kickoff with about 2 minutes left against the Roosters that gave him a chance to win the game. I think it was more that he couldn't contain Josh Morris throughout the rest of the game. Does Ivan Cleary play defence basically here in the centres and leave Naden out, possibly if he's 17 entirely, and go with Tyrone May in the centres?
I think he will, mate. I'm hearing that, he won't play.
Matty?
I think he'll play. I think he'll be. He's been named as a number 3, but I think you'll find that there'll be an 18th man come into the team. And,
the logic would be Mitch Kenny would come back in again. which proved fortuitous for him in the prelim final when Coruscant went off injured.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be the most logical thing. Would you do it if you were the coach, Matty? Would you play Naden, or would you put May in there as a defensive option?
I would go May with as a defensive option, particularly with what we've seen Bellamy do to Canberra and hunt the weaknesses. I think that's you've got to go that defence, and defence wins grand finals. I know it's very cliche, but it does. So
yeah, I think there's a big target on Naden's back if he plays, and that's should have been there all year for all the teams that were playing him. He's not great defensively. Can add a bit of spark in attack, but the other concern if you're Penrith though is that May needs to be the defensive centre. Crichton's had some issues defensively this year. They haven't been exposed that much because Penrith have won all those games, but he's not a great defender. He shoots up in the line a bit. He was exposed a bit in the first half actually last week. I think you've still got areas you can target with the Panthers. Even though I've had a bit to do in the past, I'm just analysing this as a punter. I would be absolutely positively targeting Josh Mansour with the high ball and in defence. That would be the side of the field I'd be going after heavily. So that's the Crichton-Mansour combination on Penrith's left. That's the Storm's right. And I think that is a big avenue to points for Melbourne in this grand final.
Yeah, I think they'll try and cut them off before they get to that position on the field, but they won't be successful. I think I do think that the centres are a bit dodgy, and we'll definitely see Bellamy go for the weakness again, mate. He showed his hand last week, and that's exactly what he's going to do this week.
Yeah. Conversely, if you're Penrith, I think there's huge weaknesses on the Storm edges as well. I said this before the game last week. Canberra didn't have enough ball to expose it. And even when they sort of half did, they took bad options with about 20 minutes to go. But they didn't look fantastic on the edges. Which side of the field do you go after, Matty? Do you go after the Olam Adokar side or the Lee and Vunivalu side?
Lee and anywhere Lee is, I think, go.
Break Brenko. Vunivalu is probably the worst pure defender of the two wingers. But I think Adokar gets caught jumping out and rushing in on the outside a lot. There are weaknesses there for Penrith to try and exploit. And the concern I got from Penrith is Coruscant's been playing with that shoulder being dead for a while now. They're going to play Kenny off the bench. But if you guys put yourself in Cleary's shoes, what's your approach? Do you take him do you take Melbourne up the... you know what I'm saying? Do you take Melbourne on up the middle, or do you try and really expose those edges?
Oh, I think you got to if you're Cleary. I think that's the way to. That's your best hope. I actually give them none. Penrith. I think Melbourne are the best things in a grand final in a long time. But I think to have any chance, they've got to take those edges.
Rob?
Yeah, mate, I agree. I don't think there's much future in trying to take one up the middle. Melbourne are too strong in the middle. You've obviously got to try and tire them out a little bit in the middle, but yeah, I think you really got to go to the edges and chance your hand there. I do think Melbourne are probably one of the best teams that currently this year, overall that we've seen. But I can't wipe Penrith out completely, mostly because of Coruscant and Cleary. I think that they've, and don't forget they've got Luai as well, who's totally unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So I think they. Well, what's that?
The sound effects board going deep, Matty. For every time Luai gets his name mentioned. Jerome Luai.
But he's blowing the horn. Jerome Luai. So look, I can't discount them completely, but yeah, if I was going to put the house on it, the heart says Penrith, but the house would say Melbourne, I think.
Kikau is a huge in for Penrith. Capewell was serviceable last week, but he looked gassed at different stages of the game, and then he should have scored that try when Mansell stuffed up the break. But Kikau is a big in. But Penrith have been using him really strangely for mine throughout the year. They play him for the first 30 minutes, and they take him off for 25, and they bring him on for the last, whatever the maths say, 25. And I just go, you plug him on that edge and you leave him there. I don't see any value in giving him a break. In this kind of game, Melbourne are going to play their two-edge guys, Bromwich and Kaufusi all day. I don't think you can afford to have a period of time where if Penrith are on top and Kickour's off the field, what do you do? Because Cleary is quite structured as much as he likes to take the line on, which has been great to see. And his passing game is obviously improving in the last couple of years. But he still really likes to turn the guy inside and set up the next play and set up next play. When you got Kickour on the field, you just should be feeding him. And if there's ever a game where he can't get enough ball, it's this one. So I think that's a huge in for Penrith in that their game plan should be a little bit more attacking. You've mentioned him already, but Jerome Luai, there is an air of arrogance and confidence in this kid that I think is going to be if Penrith win the grand final, it's going to be because Jerome Luai has a game where he's on. Now, he's had a lot more of those this year than he's had off. But if I'm Melbourne, I'm getting into the verbal with him really early, and I'm trying to have him focus more on that than actually making a difference with the ball. Because he's clearly, he likes to sledge. He's clearly thinks he's sort of in the upper echelon of players now. And confidence is a good thing. But if I'm Melbourne, I'm looking for these things to exploit. And the converse aspect is Penrith need him involved massively throughout the game. Because he really is that third option in attack that could really hurt Melbourne's edges. So Jerome Luai is a huge factor for me.
Jerome Luai is definitely one of those X-factor kind of players. I don't know if Melbourne want to get in the verbal with him, though, because look what happened a couple of years ago when Munster got in the verbal with someone. They ended up spending up 20 minutes in the sin bin. So if someone's going to get in the verbal with him, I mean, you don't want your playmakers getting in the verbal with him because, I really don't think Jerome Hughes or Munster can afford to be having their mind off the game.
Jerome Hughes is a bit snippy. I think he's got a bit about him in that department. Jerome Hughes, actually, I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him, not Munster.
Well, it could be interesting then, mate. The two Jeromes going at it. It'll be another game within a game. It'll be interesting to watch.
It's a sewing machine off. Melbourne boys, we know the strength is the pack. We know the strength is Cameron Smith. They showed what they were willing to do against Canberra, and they got results. I actually think they might go a little bit more conservative against Penrith, and I think the entire game plan will completely and utterly revolve around C. Smith.
Yeah. Well, he's someone described him this week as sociopathic. As far as a football player goes, he can get his mind on a job and just get things done. He's an achiever. He's a winner.
Thanks for telling me what that means, actually. I had no idea. I just thought it was one of those words you hear over the course of the time and never know what it actually means. But I appreciate that, Rob. I'm always learning with you.
Yeah. Well, good on you, mate. There's always Google too, if you like. But yeah, I think it will. Everything will centre around Cameron Smith, and you'd be silly not to, mate. I think he's played in 8 or 9 grand finals. He's done everything. The only thing he hasn't done is the Clive Churchill Award. But he'll probably get that this year, and it won't matter if they win, lose, or draw.
Well, Billy Slater got his going away present. So, Matty, what are your thoughts, mate, in regards to Melbourne?
I obviously Smith's a big factor, but I think the other Cameron, I just feel he is the X factor in this game, Munster. I just feel that he's got a huge game cooking, and I know we're not into a man of match parts yet, but I just feel that is going to have a huge game, and I know there's be a lot of spotlight on Smith, but I think Munster makes this game his own.
Yeah, what was interesting is last week he didn't have to be a big factor, and he clearly wasn't 100%, but he didn't have to be. He's got another week of training under his belt, and yeah, I'd say primed is a good thing. There's a bit of concern for Melbourne on their bench, though. Brandon Smith, I thought he redid his face, or his jaw or something, the other night, and he definitely copped a head knock. And Dale Finucane, calf. He reported that he pulled up sore. He's going to play, but he pulled up sore from a calf thing. That could just go like that on him again. Brandon Smith cops a knock to the head, and all of a sudden, Melbourne are down to Big Tino and I think Nico Hines on their bench. That's a variable in this match that you can sort of see coming potentially.
Yeah, it's not ideal, no, but it can happen with a fit. Well, like that's just it is rugby league. So yeah, I think they'll be okay.
Okay, it is time for our tips, boys. We've analysed both sides to a degree. Whether it was good or not, I don't know, but we learnt what socioeconomic. What was the word?
That's it. Socioeconomic.
He's also known as the accountant, so it's got to fit that way.
There you go.
All right, we're going to start with your first try scorer, lads. Who's going to get over number one? Rob, you stole this from me and my nephew at the Canberra game a few weeks ago. You said, bang, 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 these are my 3 tips. And so I'm going to put you last each time this time. You've had your chance.
No worries. Yeah, but I'm allowed to pick. I can pick what everyone else is picking too.
Oh, so is that how it works? Okay. Well, in that case.
Well, it does now.
Matt, who's your first try scorer, bud?
I'm all chips in the C Munster huge game. Little bit of drifts left, big dummy away, and scores in the 8th minute.
Oh, he's giving us a minute as well. I'm going to take Pappenhausen in the 16th. Matty?
You go in minutes as well.
Oh, well, sorry, Rob, what do you... Yeah, well, there's 80 to choose from. You should be fine.
Whoa, I'm going to go Vunivalu in the 9th minute.
Vunivalu in paradise. It's Vunivalu. All right, sorry. Just that Vanuatu song just came to my mind. All right, pick the score. Don't give me a range. Just give me a pick the score.
Go on, Matty.
25-12.
I will go 19-18 Melbourne.
Okay. I'm going to go 18-10 Melbourne.
Oh, Nathan Cleary, 2 penalty goals or missing a conversion?
He's going to miss a conversion.
Ooh,
a little bit of pressure for the young bloke.
So I know Munster is the man for Matty Duncan. I am going to go on the Cam Smith farewell tour. I think that's a if Melbourne win, no one else gets it. It's not going to happen. The NRL's shown this hand before. The selectors have shown this hand before, and we all know that's the only thing that young Cameron hasn't won. So yeah, it's happening.
Are you indicating or suggesting that it's a rort?
I'm just saying we know how rugby league works, kids. It's happening.
He's stuttering. He's arming. He's ahhing. He's counting the money he's got for a class action or something or other. Yeah, I agree. Cam Smith will win the man of the match, unless someone does an Ellery Hanley, Terry Smith. What's his name? Terry Lamb, Ellery Hanley on him. Anyway,
this will go into what we're going to finish the show with just after we finish our last little predictions. But we're going to go to our favourite grand finals and/or performances. And sometimes the player that takes out the other team's best player, that's a favourite performance for a lot of people. So Terry Lamb in 88 on Hanley is definitely number one. And then as serendipitous as it was, Mal Meninga on Terry Lamb in 94. Get that India. I did have this question. This is the last prediction, boys. Will there be a howler from the video referee? Yes or no?
Video referee or referees in general?
No, the video ref. So this can include the captain's challenge, but it has to be it's either captain's challenge or a try scoring situation.
Okay.
Will there be a howler?
Okay. When you say howler, you mean like where it's a bipartisan agreement that they stuffed up? It's not. Well, just
we basically all three of us will agree that that's
okay. Yes, there will be. Yes.
Yes.
It may not cost them someone the game, but yes, there will be.
Matty?
No howler. No howler. Game.
No howler. That's what I'm going with as well. So you're the only one rooting for a howler there, Cocksmith. Look, I'm
not rooting for it. I just think it'll happen.
We have to take a break. The Zoom meeting needs a quick reboot. So we'll be back after the break here on Not The Footy Show.
Not The Footy Show.
There it is. It's all over. Penrith claim their first ever title, the Winfield Cup of 1991. What a finish for Roy Simmons. What a champion he has been for his club. 258 appearances. What an exit from the game.
Now, the trophy is going to Victoria, barring a miracle. Was there a St George player who kicked it, pulled out, not in possession? The hooter has gone. Melbourne have won it. Melbourne have won the grand final. A sporting miracle. Melbourne, from 14-0, have won the grand final. 20 points to 18. It is an emotional Glenn Lazarus. He retires. 5 grand finals. He's won 3 of them with 3 different clubs.
Okay, we're back. It's the final segment here on NOT The Footy Show. Matty Duncan looking off in the distance lovingly. What are you looking at?
Watch a bit of World Series, basically.
Oh, in that case, what's the score, mate? Spoiler alert, it's game 2. What's the score?
Yeah, Tampa Bay travelling. It was still on a break, so go the Rays.
I'm gathering they're winning then. Roberto's driving, and I'm Warrick Nicolson. We're giving you our preview and tips for the big one. It's time to talk go a little bit down memory lane, and that is with Cameron Smith's impending retirement, or Willie. We recognised earlier that the only thing left in the tank for Cameron is a Clive Churchill Medal. It's the only thing he hasn't won, and I guess it got me thinking in the 4 or 5 GFs that he's played beforehand. Can either of you two think of him getting that close to winning it in recent years? Because the only one I can think of is potentially the one they gave to Billy Slater in 2017.
Yeah, there's probably a case there.
Because in 2012, Cooper Cronk won it. In 2009, Slater won it. In 2007, Inglis won it. And they're the ones he's been in contention for. I don't feel like he's ever been slighted massively for the award, but I do think that 2017 grand final, I thought that was the one where they'd give it to him. Sort of a culmination of work, so to speak. And that's why I think he's going to get it if Melbourne win this weekend. And it got me thinking also to the greatest performances in grand finals that you guys have seen. You don't have to give me an extensive list, just ones that sort of pop into your head. Because it then brings up the question, this is why the Cameron Smith related thing is, that who's been really robbed of a Clive Churchill? I'm going to start with the first one, and that is in 2008. Steve Menzies was the fairy tale farewell. Should he have got it? No, he didn't. Brent Kite somehow won it in a game that they won 40-0. Someone explained to me how a front rower wins it when your team wins 40-0 or whatever the score was. Michael Robinson should have been the first winger to have ever won the Clive Churchill. He got a hat-trick. He set up the Menzies try. If you want to talk about robbed Clive Churchill medalists, people won't talk about it, but Mickey Robertson, the former Canberra player, robbed deluxe. Can you guys think of...
Who was the St George winger that had a cracker when they gave it to Boyd?
Nightingale.
Yeah, Nightingale, that's right. Yeah.
So within 2 years, a winger should have got it, but didn't. We'll start with...
robberies, I'll quickly... And I'm going...
Robberies. Let's go robberies first, yeah.
Kevy had a blinder and they gave it to Brad McCoy in a losing side.
What was the score? Did Brisbane score late to make it 14-6? Was it 14-8? What was the final score in that game?
I think it was 14-6, I think. It was a game where Brisbane never blew them off the park, but were always in control.
It was 14-6. Did they score late to make it 14-6? I'm just trying to remember.
Not late. I think it was Willie Kahn in the corner.
Yeah, true. What was late-ish?
Yeah.
So that could explain if it was that close. They may have done the old.
They may have already gone to the and Tony Carroll had a blinder in '98, and they gave it to I think Gordy.
They gave it to Gordon. I reckon Darren Lockyer was the best player in the field in that game.
Yep.
I haven't watched it in the last 5 years, but I've watched it a few times that match, and that was an obliteration of sorts, really. And they gave it to Gordon again. It was 38-12, or it was a big blowout. Any other robberies you reckon you can remember, Roberto?
Mate, you guys are like talking another language, see, because I don't see the game the same as you do when you're watching it on TV. I really don't remember the best performance that I can remember, which you'll get to in a moment. I've got one, but I can't really remember any robberies off the top of my head, except I laughed out loud when No, that was the State of Origin one.
Billy
I love
Slater.
the Melbourne Slater won that. But no, I can't really think of a Clive Churchill one, mate. I mean, the only thing for me is the one that you just said before, though. The thing that you just said before is always the way. It seems that they decide who's going to be the man of the match come the 60th minute. You know what I mean? And it really doesn't matter for the last 10. If the game's gone, it doesn't matter if someone just plays superhuman out of their skin for the last 10. They've already decided.
DCE won for Manly when they were leading with about 10 to go against the Roosters in 2013, and then they got run over in the end. That was a thing where if they'd won the game, you wouldn't have argued with DCE, but in the end, they got trampled at the end and they lost it. Not convincingly, but they were beaten. It wasn't a case of them sort of losing it. And I'm trying to think. So he got it in that game. There are a couple that come to mind. There's one that's traditionally seen as a robbery, but I watched the game again recently, and he was really good, but he wasn't as good as Joey. And that was 2001. People thought that Ben Kennedy should have won the Clive Churchill in that game. The very next year, though, there was a robbery. Craig Fitzgibbon was a great player who had great numbers every game. But Brad Fittler was the absolute difference maker in that 2002 grand final. If you remember, he got headhunted by Villasanti and then just turned on the magic in the next half hour and blew the Warriors out of the park. He got robbed of one in 2002. In 94, Paul Osborne had the best 15 minutes of his life, possibly the best 15 minutes played by a front rower in a grand final ever. And he didn't win it. They gave it to David Furner. The other one you mentioned before, but obviously Carroll and Lockyer didn't get it and Tallis got it. But the other one that's very recent, very, very recent, Michael Morgan in 2015. I know people go on about JT and all the rest of it, but Morgan was every bit, if not better than JT in that game.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the fairy tale narrative, though, mate. You know, come on.
Morgan was the superior player in that game.
Thurston was third best on the park. It went Morgan, Milford, Thurston for mine.
So they're the big what happened situations. Now, in terms of best performances, lad, hit me with what you think your best performances you've seen in grand finals.
You go, Rob.
Go for it, Matty. No, mate, you go for it because I'm looking at it differently.
The one that springs to mind. Well, I just want the one game and I know this is not what you're looking for but Steve Jackson's try is just, anyone mentions grand final day, that is just what springs to mind. Steve Jackson, I think it's 28 people he's beaten. He was a nobody.
I think it was actually 34. I mean, you got to add everybody on the bench.
Yep. And scored it. It's the most magical thing I've ever seen and still seen. And I go back and watch it and thought, as a kid, did I overplay? I didn't.
No,
it was just an amazing performance in what was just an amazing grand final that had so many memorable moments to be capped off with that. So that's one that always springs to mind. Another one, which is timely when we're talking about hookers and Penrith, obviously Luke Priddis in that was 2003, had an absolute blinder that just could not do anything wrong on that day, which was amazing. And the other one,
that one
from a defensive game was when Bennett, he was wearing the number 9 jersey, but Bennett said, in defence, you're on G Inglis, shut him down and we'll win the grand final. And that's what he did. So they're a couple that spring to mind for me.
That was Esperigan, yeah?
Yeah.
In 2006. Rob, any that you've seen through that little lens of yours?
Oh, mate, look, a couple I didn't see through the lens. I didn't start working at it until 94. But the 89 grand final was probably the best grand final I've ever seen. As far as watching it on TV, and it had lots of those moments which Matty has just kind of spoken about.
We can speak about them. We can speak about it more if you'd like.
All the time. But mate, I think what a lot of people forget is that there were a couple of decent Tigers players on the field that day too. And I really think Benny Elias had a good game that day, other than missing that drop goal. Other than that, he had a really good day. But I mean, look, it was that. You go back through that Canberra side, mate, and just have a look at the stars that we still know. Sometimes you'll talk about a team and you'll struggle to wonder who the hell the players were. But that Canberra team of '89 were especially good. And then a couple of years after that, they just kept producing stars, mate. And what a magnificent team they were.
And they were all,
team.
apart from I think it was about 3 of them that were a little bit older, but they were all like 20 to 23.
Yeah.
When they made that 89 decider. And it's funny, like one of the things as a Canberra fan, as spoiled as I was, we didn't win a comp when they all hit their prime. Daly was 24 in 94. And then we didn't win anything the next 6 years up until the age of 30. I mean, he was busted by about the age of 26, but it's one of those real strange things. Along those lines, I mean, Brad Clyde won the Clive Churchill. I ran the numbers on that game, it's probably 10, 15 years ago, and he had something like 33 hit-ups for 300 metres and 40 tackles. It was just, agreed there were extra 20 minutes in that match. Gary Belcher, actually, if there's anybody in that game that maybe could have won it ahead of, as you say, Elias or Clyde, it was Gary Belcher, who was phenomenal. Actually, for those 2 years, Gary Belcher was Canberra's best player. But in the 1990 grand final, if you ever want a display of a perfect kicking game in a big game, it's Ricky Stewart in that 90 decider against Penrith. I've said it before, but I think he would have got 4 40-20s amongst that, and the ball just kept going out. And poor Penrith fullback David Green, who was never seen from again, is having nightmares of the ball. That leather steed and just going bouncy, 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 bouncy. Touch. The poor bloke. There are a couple others. Cliff Lyons in '87, on a stinking hot day at the SCG, tore Canberra himself. Joey Johns in '97, he pulled off the amazing play. And this comes to what you were saying, Matty. Sometimes that is the difference maker, and could win you the Clive Churchill, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it can be as even as you want for all those things. But if someone pulls amazing something out of their rear end, then I've got no dramas them getting it. But as we've discussed, the issue of when do they decide who's going to be the man of the match can count against that. You've mentioned Pritis in 03, Inglis in 07. That was a dominant display by, I think he was 21. He just looked... He ripped Manly apart in that decider. And they're the ones that sort of are as strong as anything. But coming back to the Cam Smith discussion about him not winning, and we'll finish up in a sec, Matt. I can see you watching the...
No. I've got an Apple Watch, so I get my email.
I thought you were just getting excited as I talked about the Canberra Raiders, and the heart just sort of... And now I forgot what I was going to say. No, some great players haven't won some big awards. It happened this week. Jack Wighton wins the Dally M, and people's immediate thing is not, hey, Jack Wighton won. It's Darren Lockyer didn't win one. I just find that's where people get a little bit carried away with this stuff. I had no issues with Wighton winning the award. I think he had an amazing...
Of course you didn't. He's a Canberra player. Hello.
Well, Jared Croker was Robb. But basically, the great players sometimes, they suffer, and I tweeted this the other day. The big thing that counted against Nathan Cleary winning the Dally M was that he is a great player and a great team. That means there are other great players in the side. Wighton in the Canberra team this season was a great player and a good team. And you're going to stand out more. It's just the nature of the beast. And the reason that I came to this conclusion is he became the third Canberra player to win the Dally M. Stewart won it once and Daly won it once. You would have thought they would have won multiples, given how great a player they were. Now Meninga didn't win it. Steve Walters didn't win it. You know, you could go through... Bradley Clyde never won the award. Then you go to... There's some Brisbane players that didn't win it multiple times that you maybe would have thought. We said Lockyer, obviously. It's hard to win an award like that. And if you nail it back into the Clive Churchill discussion, Cam Smith is kind of in the Laurie Daly category, where he's probably played... Daly's had amazing grand finals, but he never won the Clive Churchill. Cameron Smith could actually go through unless things happen as I expect them to, and he could have played really well in 4 grand finals or 5 grand finals and hasn't won it. I can see him missing out as much as I've been on him before. Do you think this is okay in the wash up for Cameron Smith? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, I hope there's going to be some people that always use it as a point to make their case, but not for me.
I think it's totally okay. I think it's totally okay he doesn't win it, as long as if he plays really well this week and is best on field, as long as he wins it then. I just don't like giving awards for, it's the only one he hasn't won. Let's give it to him. Why?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Why? There could be some other bloke out there and who might be one of those players who's only on 150, 200 grand a year who works his ring out. And if he's better, give it to the other bloke. I mean, if Cameron Smith's the best on the field, give it to him. If Billy Slater's the best in an Origin series with only 2 games under the belt, give it to him. But give it to the right bloke. Don't just give it to a bloke with name because you want to create a story or you want to, put the icing on the cake, because that's crap. Like, let's be honest. Best and fairest is a Clive Churchill Medal, best and fairest on grand final day of that particular year, not just because he's played over 500 first-class games, but because he is the best and the fairest player on the field on the day. Give it to him. If he's not, give it to someone else.
And something that will be clear. And look, he's not the favourite legend of the game that sometimes it's made up to be. And there's been a thing happening in the States recently, in the last few years, and you'd know about this, Matty, with LeBron James and him claiming that he doesn't get the respect. Now, as an outsider looking at what I see with the LeBron argument, it's that people still reckon MJ is better than him, even though LeBron's won multiple teams. He's been in the finals, 9 out of the last 10 finals or some ridiculous stat like that. And he's just won the award and he's going, where's my respect? Now, people feel that way a bit about Cam Smith for various reasons. And I feel like, as much as I don't think LeBron's, I'm talking about my rear end here, but I don't think he can claim that he's better than MJ. I don't think Cam can play that card about not getting the respect. There's some people that don't like him, don't get me wrong, but in terms of how the game sees him, he is up in that top echelon. I've got a funny feeling that, and I could be completely wrong, he's hanging out for this Clive Churchill. He really is. If they don't win, I think he goes around again. And if he doesn't win if they don't win, he's going around again. That's my theory. There you go.
Wow.
Interesting.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think you're wrong. That's fine. I don't trust me. I'd like to see him go around again. I'd like to see him play 1,000 games. Why not?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of games, but be the first to do it. I don't think he's. Do you really think it bothers him? Like, do you really think it bothers him? What's he said?
There is a lot of people that don't like him. I think he is.
I think he likes it, doesn't he? Like, I know Wally liked it, and I think these great players thrive off that. I think they like being disliked.
I'm playing a little bit of the whole conspiracy theory here, but if he was universally liked, okay, and there's not that many players that have been like Jonathan Thurston's in that category. Who would have been before that? Even Joey wasn't universally liked. Lockyer they had some people that didn't like some things he did off the field. But the last one that's been universally liked is JT. We agree on that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, universally can be. Yeah, yep.
When he announced he was going, it was like, this is the farewell tour. All right?
Yeah.
It was all good. If Cam was universally liked, would he have made an announcement already?
Oh, no. Mate, I don't think it's got much to do with being universally liked. I think it's just him. I just think he likes to keep things close to his chest. I don't know if he, I mean, he was given a testimonial, wasn't it?
5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Cam Smith has been granted, everything. There's certain people that don't like Cameron Smith. Fans that don't like that he plays for Melbourne, don't like the way that Melbourne plays, don't like that Melbourne cheated the salary cap, don't like Queensland. So there's a lot of negatives to go, there's a lot of negatives for some fans there. The other fans that see him as a pure football player and one of the greatest football players of the last, since football's been around, maybe not the greatest, but one of the greatest for sure and certain. And let's be honest, he's played over 500 first-class games. 400 odd club games plus tests and state of origins, and captained all of them. And he's done nearly everything. He's done everything you can do in rugby league. So you've got to take your hat off to the bloke, whether you think you like him or not. The only way to really know him is to know him. I don't know if you can like him or dislike him without knowing him. The persona that we see on TV, the cheeky grins, the kind of trying to influence the referees and stuff like that. I don't know if that's really him, and if it is him, well then so be it. But I don't think we even deserve the right to form an opinion whether we like the bloke or not, like the player. You know, I don't know. I just don't think you know, it matters whether he's liked or disliked or whatever it is. If he's the type of bloke not to admit that he's going to leave, I mean, he might have many reasons not to, mate. I mean, one of those reasons might be he's waiting for, who knows, another club to say, come here and we'll give you 1.5 million a year for the next 2 years. That could be a good reason. And so he might be holding out for that. Who knows? He might have already had those kind of offers on the table, and he's you know, checking out what his body's doing. So I think there's quite a few things at play here, and you know, not least the grand finals at play. And he obviously wants to put all of his effort into it, like he has done for all of his career. You know, you've got to admit he's dedicated, and you know, he knows how to prepare for big games. So I don't know. It's a little bit conspiracy theory to me. Was it? Take your tinfoil hat off, mate.
I'll just add one thing
jersey
to it.
Back on.
I'm wearing it now. You don't have the video on.
Good.
I will add this to it. So he gets chaired off on Friday night. Okay?
It's already been chaired off last week. Yep.
Yeah, gets chaired off, waves to the crowd, laughing, carrying on. Sits in the press conference. And both he and Bellamy, and then the Storm's media manager even went to Twitter and made a very special effort to announce, oh, he hasn't retired. Oh, that just happened to happen. That's the bit that just sits under the surface for me, and I just go, really? Like, you can just laugh it off, can't you? But you don't have to make a concerted effort to try and say, no, he's definitely not retiring. It wasn't a retirement. That part of this whole PR narrative thing just didn't sit well with me, personally.
I wouldn't let it worry you, mate. You're not losing sleep over there.
Oh, massively. I live there near a main road. It could be that as well, but one of the two. Boys, let's wrap up the episode. That's been 224. We've given you our tips. We're all going Melbourne. I mean, I'm disappointed in you, Cocksmith. I thought you'd be loyal to.
No, mate. Like I said,
Nathan,
the heart says Penrith. I want Penrith to win. You know, there's probably 14 other teams that I'd prefer to see win than Melbourne. You know,
who's the other?
I hate Manly.
I told you my list the other week, didn't I?
I don't really.
Manly. Just add that to any list.
Is that the SH1T list? Yeah. Look, I'm not a real, sorry, Matty, but I'm not a real big fan of the Broncos either. But
nobody.
I probably like them more than I like Manly.
Okay, so that's something.
Yep.
That is.
We'll take that.
Very, very good. So, Rob, you'll be there at the game on the weekend.
Apparently.
Enjoy.
Yep.
Very interesting to see what you see through your little lens there, and whether Cam Smith is Clive Churchill medal worthy. What are your plans, Matty?
No, just at home was work in the day, and then just at home, come out of the home office and turn the TV on, and away we go.
Yeah. Are you be KOing, or it'll be the Channel 9 coverage anyway, won't it?
KO. No, I'm a big KO man.
But I think they can't. I don't think they can run their commentary live. It's not shown live, is it?
I game all year that they can't do.
Yeah, it's that in the 3 Origin games. So you're stuck with Rabbits and Joey. Actually, I don't mind it when they've got their 18 going, Channel 9.
I might put the radio on.
Very, very good.
Listen to Hadley.
Is he still going around? Is he? Didn't know that they were even a thing still. I'll be. I've got the brother-in-law and a whole bunch of nieces and nephews coming around to see if they can survive till 10 o'clock when the game finishes. Thanks, Channel 9. I did want to add that last thing actually in that prelim game. Did you guys hear about the gate fiasco with Ticketek?
Friday night.
On Friday night.
It was a disaster. I had friends
what,
there.
What did you hear directly, Matt?
Oh well, there was something. Well, I had a mate that was there, and they said there was something with the Ticketek tickets on your phone, just wasn't reading them at all, or knowing what was going on. So people couldn't get in, and then they got to a point where they're just like, open the gates, and COVID restrictions were gone, and people come from that once they heard that the gates were open.
There's a pub about 50 metres from there. They would have all run across.
Yeah.
And that was the feedback I got from a mate who was there, was that the moment the gates opened, it was like it's sardines.
Yeah.
Has there Has there been any, positive cases of COVID come from Lang Park? I mean, what's going on?
They're localised to Bathurst, mate, at the moment.
No.
Okay.
Anastasia's kept.
Oh, yeah,
Canberra,
Palaszczuk's offensive.
Come in a day early.
Beautiful. That's good.
Everything out.
She's a miracle maker, that woman. She's unbelievable.
And is she going to get re-elected? Let's have a hot tip, Maddie. Is she going to get re-elected?
Take Cameron Munster to win the Clive Churchill, all up Anastasia to win the election.
And what price can you offer us, mate?
No, I'll have to look that up at one of your selected wagering providers.
Very, very well put. Okay, that's episode 224. Roberto Coxsmith, Matty Duncan. I've been Warrick Nicolson. Follow us everywhere that we've told you about, and we will probably convene early next week to recap the GF. Enjoy the game if your team is involved, and if it's not, just enjoy what isn't the last big game of rugby league day, because we've got a big Origin series coming up. And Maddie, how do you feel about the Meninga-Bennett combination? Is it going to deliver 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins?
3 wins.
In the next 5 years. All right, that's been episode 224, and we'll catch you soon. They're Not The Footy Show. See you, everyone.
Catch you, boys.
Maddie?
See you. Pepsi.
Clockwork.
Not The Footy Show.
Short drop out from Canberra and Everton.
Here goes Dyer! Dyer gets it! Racing Simmons! Yes! That's it! The grand final's gone!
Here we go. He gets the ball first, gets hit around the head and drops the football. What to do? What does the video ref do? Does he award a penalty try?
Well, can you be absolutely certain that Craig Smith would have scored?
Down the throat.
Yeah, that's a penalty try.
I think you'll find that Bill Harrigan is about to make one of the biggest calls ever been made in 100 years of rugby league.
It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of
Not The Footy Show.
I've got a 5-year deal here.
Pepsi.